All right, we are live. Good evening, good people. Hi, there is Jason with Green Country Agroforestry. It's Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and time again for yet one more live stream. I see we got Brian out there. We got Vicky out there tonight. Hi, everybody. Brian's asking who left the gas on. All right, I'm going to give everybody a minute to hop on in here while I drink a little bit of water. Mm. Water tonight, not coffee. Oh, my goodness. I do have some like coffee drink here, but we'll see if I get in the mood to drink it. Let's see. Upcoming stuff. Upcoming stuff. I have here. Let's see. I did nixtamalization and showing you the thing with the corn and the tortillas, right? We got that done. I've got an upcoming thing with introducing shrimp to our aquatic system. So I'm going to be explaining some stuff about the aquatic system and kind of what we're planning on doing with that in the future. We're going to add some different kinds of fish and do some outdoor stuff and build some ponds. So there's going to be some fun stuff coming up. And right now, I'm in the process of learning how to put together an aquatic ecosystem so that it works effectively. And so you're getting to watch me while I'm doing my trial and error and sometimes more error. But maybe I do a $50 mistake and you don't have to make that $50 mistake. And that's something that you can take away from my experiences. Um, yeah, I'll be telling you about a $50 mistake that I made coming up next Sunday when I release our video on the aquatics and introducing shrimp. You'll love that. Let's see. I've also got a video in the works uh, that started as small homestead incomes, and I drew a little line through that and said micro homestead income. So we're talking about places that are half acre or less. So you've got a little bit of land that you live on, and you can't really abandon your land because you've got house payments and stuff like that. But you have a yard. You want to use your yard to do something other than just grow grass, and maybe uh, you thought, I'd like to generate some income with my property. Maybe there's something I can do in the way of micro homesteading that can generate income. And I've got 7 things. There's actually 8, but 2 of them are kind of linked together to the point where it's 7 things that you can do to generate income on a micro homestead. We're talking half an acre or less. So maybe the small homesteaders are growing produce, sweet corn for the market, and you're flipping lettuce. But there's other things than just that. I mean, that'd be the Curtis Stone sort of approach. So we got that coming up sometime in the future. Hopefully, I'll have an interview with a guy that is in the business or starting up his business to sell exotic reptiles, which would be kind of cool as a small business that you got. Vicky is trying to tell me something here, and How to Garden is in there. Hi, How to Garden. Vicky's saying the Apius americana, that's a ground nut, it's a vining, it's a tuber that produces a vine that goes up into your vining layer, have arrived and afford the best when I get. Oh, that's so. Well, they don't have to be necessarily the best. I just, I would like to have a couple. That'd be cool. That's nice. I appreciate it. I've got I've got 2 red bud trees out there over there at Margaret's place that could use some companionship, and I could probably put those over there. And also, I've got a peach tree that doesn't have anything growing up it yet. It's old enough to support something, and I've got another pear tree, an Anjou pear tree out back that's now I think in its 3rd year, and it's old enough that it can have a vine put on it. I figure after they get a few years in, the trees do, and they're established, you can start attaching vines to them, and hopefully perennial vines, so you can always have something growing up into the trees and take advantage of that photosynthesis. All right, so all that's done. Some of you that are following not only this channel, but also following some other channels like Jack Spirico's survival podcast may have noticed that a while back, I think is sometime last week, I said, hey, when the topic came up, I've got a list of the plants, the trees, the shrubs, and perennials that you can plant in conjunction with walnut trees, those trees that produce juglone. And I'll put that up in a place where people can get to it. And I have done so. I've actually put it up on our website. So I'll share right here. Here it is. Is this it? Is that what I'm looking at? Let me double check and make sure. Let's see. That may not be it. Let me stop that screen. All right, we're going to share. Tab. Yeah, there it is. That's what I'm looking for. That's it. I was sharing the wrong thing. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Let me go ahead and expand that to full size. And let's click on this. I added an article here on our website that is, of course, greencountryagroforestry.com, and I'll put the link for it here into the chat real quick. All right, putting the link into the chat. There it is. I want to have a walnut tree in my food forest. What about juglone? I put this article together a while back, and we now actually have included it on our website. Here it is. And I'm not going to bore you to death with the entire thing. We'll just run through real quick here. Chances are, if you've been hanging out in horticultural circles for long enough, you heard about juglone. You've heard that walnut trees produce it. That's bad for other plants and trees. What exactly are you looking at? And can you include a walnut tree in your food forest? And the answer is yeah, you can. There's a few that are listed here early on. I've scrolled down to, you can see here, apples, asparagus, brassicas, that's your cabbage, mustard, pak choi, stuff like that. Chrysanthemums, columbines, hydrangeas, narcissus, peonies, panaceate trees and shrubs, that's fir, larch pine, spruce, true cedars, rhubarb, solanaceous plants like eggplant, peppers, potatoes, and tomatoes, and true lilies. All of those things are particularly susceptible to juglone. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have them whenever you're growing a walnut tree, but just keep in mind that they will wind up being first to get the axe if that tree starts to feel stressed. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have a very, very long list of things that grow just fine with walnuts. And some of these are things that really you're going to want to have, like alliums, apricots, asters, beans, the bee balm, bellflowers, cherries, clover, corn, crocuses, one of the most valuable crops you can grow there, currants, daylilies, dogwoods, elderberries, all these different things, pawpaws, oaks, peaches, pears, persimmons, and plums, all different kinds of very useful and very productive trees can be grown in conjunction with a walnut tree. So yeah, you can work your food forest around so that you can have walnut trees in your food forest, and it shouldn't be any problem at all. All right, now here we go. I said that I had something to show you. All right. Actually, I got a couple things to show you that have been coming in. First thing I'm going to show you is these cans. These two cans here. These two cans are prototyping because I am getting ready to produce a new product. We're testing it this year. During the growing season this year, I'll be testing this new product to see if it works as I think it will. And I'm going to be using these two cans to test to see which kind of applicator would be best. I've got one that has this brush applicator and one that comes with a dauber applicator, right? And we're going to be trying this on squash vines to prevent vine borers and on corn to prevent corn earworms, the worms that get in your ears of corn, devour those. This particular product should protect against both of those and possibly against some other pests in the garden as well. And of course, it's non-toxic, classified by the EPA as non-toxic. It uses two main components that you may be familiar with. One is eastern red cedar oil, which is a repellent to moths and other insects. And the other one is wood vinegar, which I'm starting to experiment with and discovering this. Also, very potent repellent to insects of all kinds. So between these two, I should come up with a sort of a binary effect between one or the other. That sort of scent should drive the insect away and leave your vines, your squash vines, unmolested. That's coming up this coming right here in the spring. Now, the main attraction, right? So somebody wants to ban. This is the part you index to. How far along are we? All right. 9 minutes, 53 seconds. So coming up on 10 minutes here. Somebody wants to ban your gas cook stove. Well, how dare they? How dare they? You know, cooking with gas is the best way to cook. You get no scorch marks on the bottom of your pan, obviously, because you're not putting it directly over a nice sooty fire the way you would with your wood stove. You get to control the temperature of your flame, and you can control it precisely. Stop it, start it very precisely. It's wonderful. I couldn't imagine trying to cook on anything other than gas. But hey, you know what? Somebody wants to ban gas stoves. So I've got an answer to that here. Let's go ahead and cut into this box here. I got this shipped to me today. It arrived. I ordered it a while back. I saw this for sale and I went, oh my gosh, I've got to get one of these. It's going to be awesome for a couple of reasons, really. First off, this is a very old house, and keeping it cool in the summer, because our trees that we've planted with the intention of them growing up and becoming very, very big pecan trees and providing a lot of shade and making nuts. See, shade is the other benefit of having these really big trees, right? They haven't reached that size yet where they can provide us with all that shade. And so we're having to try to cool the house in the summer. It gets kind of hot out here on the prairie in the summer. So I like to do my cooking outdoors, right? So I do a lot of grilling, but firing up the grill is not appropriate if you want to, cook a pot of soup or something, or maybe just make an omelet or something like that in the morning. You don't want to fire up the grill for that. Maybe you want to fire up the grill if you're going to bake biscuits in it or something like that. But anyway, biscuits. See, I can talk. This thing right here just looked like just the ticket, because I'm just talking too much, aren't I? Look like just the ticket, because what it's actually cooking with is a form of gas that it creates while it's in operation. How's that for neat? All right. It's called the Fab Stove. And it looks, if I can pull this thing out of the box, a bit like this. Okay. Let's go ahead and put some of these parts over to the side that we will address in a moment. All right. So this is the initial unboxing. Yes, it comes with a solar panel. It is a wood stove that runs on, well, you can use wood pellets like this. This is about 2 pounds of wood pellets. That's enough to burn for, I think, about an hour at full blast. Heat on high. Of course, most of the time, whenever you're cooking, you don't have your heat all the way on. You could also do something like gather your yard waste, little tiny twigs like these. That's about, probably want to put a little bit more in a bundle there. Maybe tie it off with some string to compact it, and then fire that puppy up. And that's free fuel for cooking with, of all things. But that's not even the best part. All right. Like I said, this is powered by wood, but what's happening is you're not burning the wood. That seems weird, right? You're not burning the wood. Jason, what the heck are you talking about? Not burning the wood. Of course you're burning the wood, aren't you? I mean, aren't you? All right, let's see here. Let me pull apart these parts here. I've got the two parts. So let's get to this here in a minute. This is the basket you put your fuel in. Right here. All right. Oh, it's already got stuff in it. That is, the other thing. When I mentioned one of the components in my potential new vine borer repellent, this stuff right here. We're going to try wood vinegar. Smells like wood smoke. Smells very strongly like wood smoke. And the nice thing about that is whenever an insect out there in the wild smells wood smoke, they get a bit nervous, because wood smoke usually comes along with fire, and fire is bad for insects. So they have a tendency to run away. They don't want to go where the wood smoke is. Anyway, so inside here, you can see down there's the chamber that the fuel will go into, and it's got a couple holes up here at the top. And what will happen with this thing is, once it's got your fuel inside and you've got it lit, let me put this over here to the side. Oh, there's those little clips I've been looking for. I've been looking for these. I can use these to build fish traps. I'll show you how to do that in an upcoming video. All right. So once you've got your fuel in here, you've got it lit from the top. You'll notice that there's something going on down here at the bottom. Well, that's what's going on down there at the bottom is this little thing. If you can see this vent at the bottom, that's connected to this little fan that's down here, an electric powered fan. Runs off the battery that's probably right here. Okay. As a matter of fact, there's a cord for it. Down here, we've got a power button going on, off. I think it actually has off, speed 1, and speed 2. So your fan has 2 different speeds. And then this little lever here on the side controls your airflow. So how much air is actually going in. And this feeds the air in up from underneath. So it's an updraft burner that causes that wood fuel to be burned up, but it's not the wood that gets burned, it's the flammable vapors in the wood that get burned, and what you're left with afterwards is a big canful of biochar. So you get the advantage of cooking with gas between your fan control and your airflow. You control how hot a flame you're going to produce whenever you're cooking. And there's your cooking surface right there. Right? How hot a flame you get is controlled that way. And whenever you're done, you've got a batch of biochar, which is kind of cool. So I've got a little biochar maker for working with outside because it so happens that the municipality does not like whenever I make fires outside, unless, of course, I'm cooking. So fine. If I want to make biochar outside, I now can, and I will cook outside. And I can have my omelet in the morning in the summer and the spring, and I can use my yard waste to fire up my little cooker, and I'll be left with biochar for my garden when I'm all done. So that's the little gadget I wanted to show off tonight. I think this entire thing is a power supply. It's also a little solar cell. All right. You guys know I like the concept of thermoelectric generators, and the thought occurred to me that right up here at the top, you can see underneath where that ring there is, this ring here, right up here might be a good place. Perhaps not on this model because of the way it's built, but that might be a good place to put a ring of thermoelectric modules. And if you had those would be able to generate sufficient electricity, I think, to recharge your battery and run your fan. So you can be cooking breakfast, charging up your cell phone, and making a batch of biochar for your garden all at the same time while using your yard waste for fuel. And Vicky's saying, I'd like to see the powers that be. I'd like to see the powers that be that shouldn't be react to having their chef cooking without gas, especially with it would not be a pretty picture, I think, for a few well-connected people. It's like, hey, why are my eggs tasting so strangely? What's wrong with dinner? What happened? Oh, we're cooking on electric like you mandated. Well, what can you do about that? Well, we could cook with gas. We can go back to cooking with gas. That's an idea. Anyway, this gives us a way that we can cook with gas and provide our own fuel. It's just wood gas that we're cooking with, and we're left with charcoal at the end. Of course, that charcoal can be used for fortifying your garden. Use it as biochar. You can feed it to livestock. If I were to take some of that biochar and mix it in with my duck feed, I can expect the smell of my duck's manure to be decreased by about 50% as some of the ammonia that's in the duck's manure gets absorbed by that charcoal. Of course, when it comes out the other end of the duck, it's already charged biochar, ready to be sent out to the garden to provide a source of fertility and a home for microorganisms, which is kind of cool. Otherwise, you have to sit there and you have to soak it and try to get that biochar to take up water, because it doesn't want to take on water very easily, and get to take in all those initial microorganisms you want it to be charged with, and it doesn't want to take that in very well originally. Wow, I can't talk initially as well. Brian was, what? I can ship you a box of acorns. Why would I want a box of acorns? I don't want a box of acorns. Please, no. I've got a burr oak. It won't make acorns for a while, unfortunately. But it's doing okay. I lost one of our prickly ash trees. It was the Sancho pepper tree, the Japanese one. So that one has to be replaced either with another prickly ash, or I might just try something else in that spot. There was a purple pussy willow over there on that side as well. Purple pussy willow. But most of the time you see the pussy willow and you think either it's just the plain old brown uh, willow shrub tree, or sometimes you see them with the pink catkins. This one, the catkins are like a really dark purple. So they're almost black, and it's a black pussy willow. Anyway, I've got, I think, one cutting that I took from it still survived, but the original didn't. And I've been trying to like nurse it along until I can get it next to an aquatic system where it will be happy. I don't know. I might put something different in that spot. Somebody's been saying, Papa, get a Papa. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they like shade. I think if I don't have anything in that spot here in another 2 years or so, I should be starting to get some altitude on my oak tree over there, and the pecan will be a bit higher, and then maybe we'll have enough shade that I could feel comfortable sliding a pawpaw in there. We've got a Japanese persimmon. We got a Japanese persimmon going out here in the front yard, where I used to have another Bartlett tree. I used to have 2 Bartlett pear trees out front. One of them died. The other one is still doing fine. And of course, got the Anjou up back. So I have 2 different breeds of pear tree. I don't really need a third pear tree because once those guys get mature, 2 pear trees producing, 2 mature pear trees producing is more pears than I want to deal with. It really is. Brian said, like the orange daylily called tiger lily. We have got a lot. We've got a lot of just the plain oranges, and we do have some that are supposed to have spots on them as well. Like I haven't actually seen them flower yet. So we've got that. We've got our rescue lilies. Once again, I haven't seen those flower yet either. They should have flowered this past season, but we had the drought coming in, and they didn't really produce. They barely clung on. I thought we'd lost quite a few of them, and we probably did, but we do still have some. I just won't be having them for sale anytime soon because they need to spread again. Let me see here. Persimmon in place of one of those pear trees. I ordered up. I don't know why I did. It was just I got a wild hair. That's what it is. We're going to call it Jason got a wild hair. And I was sitting there and I was ordering up that persimmon tree. And I saw an all-in-one almond tree and saw that it could survive from zone 5 to 9. I went, we're in 7. So I think I'm gonna put it in between these 2 houses for right now. Though one day we're gonna demolish this house over here, and it'll be sort of in between this house and what eventually, hopefully, I'll have for a greenhouse. And I don't know how well it'll do there, but we'll see. Vicky's asking, how has the experiment with Perry gone so far? I'm not sure. Perry. Who's Perry? With pears? With all of the air layers that I tried taking with the paper towels didn't quite work out. So the next time we try that, we're going to use peat moss. Still going to use the plastic bag, but we use peat moss instead of paper towel. Paper towel wasn't going to work apparently. Just got too dry. Vicky says, I have as much plant now as I can afford. Let's see. We've got what else do I have coming? I've got three, kind of 1, 2, 3 Allegheny chinkapins on the way. And that's going to take the place of Siberian pea shrub and a couple of hazelnut trees that didn't make it. mainly because the gophers really like to chew the roots of my trees. And I have a few that survive, and hopefully I can propagate the few that survive, and occasionally I'll have to replace them because the gopher's going to come along and eat them again anyway. I just have a plague of gophers, apparently. So that'll be about a dozen or so hazelnut trees, and we've now added three chinkapins. A chinkapin is like a miniature chestnut. So it produces the nut that is effectively, it is a chestnut. It's the same species or same genus. It's just a smaller tree. So chinkapin will get like maybe 10, 12, 15 feet tall tops, whereas the chestnut can get pretty big. It can be a canopy tree. Brian said, I air layered my pecan tree. Saw the video. Yes. I wound up with two of those air layers that had roots on them by the time it was time to cut them loose and the fall was coming. One I planted in the ground, and we'll see if it made it. And the other one I put into a kitty tub. We have a kitty tub out on the side of the house with a bag, a sandbag, like you would put the sand in, but for shoring up the levee. Only it has pine bark mulch in it. It's in the kiddie pool, and we're using some duck manured water for plant food, and we'll see if it survives the winter for one. And then if it continues to grow, it had very little roots on it, very little, but it did make roots. So the plan for those two pecan trees is if one, I'm going to test to see if they survive winter in the kiddie pool. That's kind of going to be a future. Can we keep trees over winter in this environment? Will it work? And if it does, then I can keep other trees that way. And that makes it a little bit easier for me to remove from the bag, have the mulch over here. I've got my root structure mostly intact this way, and then I can package these up and ship them whenever they're dormant. If they can survive that way, if they can survive in that environment, then I can pull out those trees and set them to the side and have them ready to package up and ship at a later date. Let me see here. Vicky is saying chinkapin is also susceptible to chestnut blight. Yeah, they are. They're not immune to it. But we'll see. We'll see if I can grow some chinkapins. Maybe I can get some chestnuts out of it. Maybe the ducks will like to eat chinkapin off the ground whenever they come ripe. That might be interesting. Is let the ducks go by and patrol along the hedgerow and forage there and fatten themselves up for the winter. Hi, kitty. We have a guest kitty indoors today. Usually it's my daughter's kitty, Suzu, that's in here. And we have a much older kitty in the house with us. Usually you see him when he's outside, but he's indoors today. Hey, Sarge, how you doing? Mind if I pick you up? Do you mind if I pick you up? You say hi to everybody. Hi, Sarge. Wow, this is an old kitty. He is so old. He is so old. Say hi, everybody. Look up there. Sarge, look up there. Oh, he's just gonna look down. Hi. Now. All right, he's just looking down there where his spot is. He just likes attention. He's not a camera hog. All right, so Brian was saying, so my shrimp all died. This is what happened. I will tell you what happened now and save you the suspense. But I'll explain the entire thing again. Yeah, crossing my fingers and praying for blight avoidance. We'll see. And a lot of this stuff I'm experimenting. This is Oklahoma, not really well known for being a hazelnut capital of the world. Not really known for growing chestnuts here either. Mostly it's pecans and oaks and hickories and stuff like that. But some of these smaller trees, understory trees, I think they might do well here. So we'll find out, by golly. Maybe, who knows? That'll be the next big thing. Anyway, so back to what I was telling Brian. First batch of shrimp were coming in, and I was getting a piece of very fine mesh screen to come in at the same time. They were both scheduled to arrive on the same day. Both of them were supposed to arrive on the same day. And that way I could create a corral inside the tub that I'm using. I'm using a non-filtered planted tub to grow guppies in. Guppies are in there, and there's water chestnuts growing in there, and I've got some sweet potato vines in there, and there's lots of duckweed and stuff growing in there. And the duckweed itself is actually the primary food source for this aquatic ecosystem, because the guppies come up, they eat the duckweed, and they eat the little tiny critters that live in amongst the duckweed, and the guppies grow and they poo, and they make that fertilizer. It goes down to the cells in the bottom of the tank. Some of it, the free floating stuff, is taken up by the duckweed to make more duckweed, so that's more food for the guppies, yay. It makes oxygen for the guppies, yay. But that fine sediment gets down to the bottom where I've got lava rocks, and it settles amongst there, and the roots to the water chestnut grow in through that, and they take up the solids and turn that into the physical body of the water chestnut plant. So I've got vegetables growing up out of that bottom layer of waste that's being produced in there. And because of the way it's set up, I haven't had to run an aerator in it, and I haven't had to run a filter through it, and I haven't had to feed the fish. So it just sits there, and the sun shines, and it feeds itself. That's the system. But it's starting to build up algae, and I don't have really an effective creature for filtering the algae out. And if there's too much algae in the water, whenever they go through their nighttime reaction, they will absorb oxygen from the surrounding water. And if there's too many of them doing that, they can cause your fish to die off. So you don't want algae blooms. And so to get rid of the algae, I have to introduce something. So I figured, let's get freshwater shrimp. I ordered up a breeding colony of 10 freshwater shrimp from one spot, opened it up on our last live stream to show you, hey, here we go. They're dancing around, little lively little shrimp. There's our live freshwater shrimp. And I put them in the back room and said, okay, now all we have to do is wait for this mesh to arrive so I can put it all together and put them in the tank. But the mesh didn't come up, didn't show up. The shrimp arrived one day too early. So I figured, okay, I've got a minnow bubbler. This is one of the ones that runs on the AA batteries. What I'll do is I'll poke a little hole in the top of the bag, and I'll put the minnow bubbler in there, and I'll tie it off with a little elastic and put it down into the tub so that the water can reach the same temperature and the shrimp stay aerated. And even though I don't have the ability to put them into the tank that's producing enough oxygen that the shrimp can survive, the bubbler will give them oxygen. They'll make it. Come in the next day, and the bubbler has gone off because the batteries have died overnight. Well, okay, fine, but it probably gave them enough oxygen that they could survive, a few hours at least. Surely, I go to take a look, and I notice that the bag seems to be floating rather high on the top of the tub. I'm like, well, this seems unusual. And I take a look and discover that a hole has sprung in the bag. The water has evacuated, but the bubbler's blowing out air pretty good, and it's inflated the bag and caused it to float to the surface. And the shrimp that are in the bag have been like this with no water for I don't know how long. So I didn't get video of this because I was alarmed and immediately reached over, grabbed the little quart jar that I've been using to inspect my water and make sure we didn't have any little flatworms in it before introducing the animal that could be damaged by the flatworms, the shrimp. And went, okay, well, I know this water is safe. Let's go ahead and put them in there. And then I put the bubbler in there. And I was like, okay, let's cross our fingers. Hopefully, maybe one or two of them are alive. Hopefully, they're females, and we haven't wasted almost $60 on shrimp that we wound up killing. And ultimately, yeah, I wound up losing $60 worth of livestock because I was not adequately prepared to receive it on the one hand, and on the other hand, I had made the error of assuming that by putting that bubbler in the bag that it was going to be okay. Instead, I should have opened up the bag, put those shrimp into that quart jar, put the bubbler in the quart jar, and left them like that overnight instead of entrusting them to stay in that bag that they've been shipped in. And Brian said, next time, just throw them in the tank. I wanted to have a mesh set up so that the guppies that are already in the tank could be kept away from where the shrimp would be hanging out and breeding. That way I could at least have at least one or two breeding cycles of the shrimp before the guppies started eating the babies. That way, maybe the shrimp make a few baby shrimp that the guppies get to eat for exotic fish food, and they eat that instead of eating the azolla and duckweed on the top, and that allows it to multiply more, which gives us more ability to absorb toxins and nitrates out of the water and produce more oxygen. And so this is more biological diversity supplying feedback loops and regulatory loops inside the ecosystem. So the more of this we have, the more of these things that will work off each other, the more stable the ecosystem becomes. Vicky is saying, feeling like Epimetheus much. Let's see. I do know a little bit of that, but I don't know everything. Ah, yes. God of hindsight. Ha ha, Vicky. Sneaks a mythological reference by me that I'm not familiar with off the top of my head. Well done, ma'am. God of hindsight. Yep. The Titans got it bad, right? Prometheus gives mankind fire, but he gets tortured eternally on account of it. The other Titans just get slaughtered or locked away. Just doesn't seem right. Anyway, so I had planned on having the video where I introduced the shrimp, but since the first batch of shrimp died and then the wire arrived, well, actually, I was still trying to keep 2 of them alive. There were 2 that survived the initial fiasco for a little bit, and then they died off. And so we got 10 more coming. So I had to reorder, and I ordered from a second vendor. And I decided I was not going to mention the first vendor because I don't want my failure to reflect badly upon them, because I'm pretty sure that the failure was all my mistake, 100% my mistake. I don't think it was their mistake at all. I think it was mine. And so we just don't mention that one. The second one gets mentioned mainly because they put their company name on a really big placard when I opened up the box, and there was just no way that the camera didn't see that. And I'm not going to edit it out. Well, I might, but I'm not intending to deliberately. It's just if it's there, it's there. All right. So Prometheus was foresight, and Epimetheus was hindsight. And eventually Hercules freed Prometheus. Prometheus' punishment for giving fire to mankind was to be chained to a rock and have his liver torn out by an eagle on a daily basis. Every day it would grow back, and every day the eagle would come and tear his liver out again. You can imagine that as punishment for trying to help a guy out. Anyway, so we've got 10 new shrimp that we introduced, and I got to tell you, since I introduced them, even just the course of the few days that they've been in there, and I've got the video in the can, and it's ready to, I think, mostly to be edited now. So by Sunday, I'll have that video out. But since I've got them and put them in, I think they've gotten bigger, the shrimp. And they only like to come out at night, so I make sure the lights are turned off. They're off back there right now. So if I were to go back there with the flashlight and just peekaboo and turn the light on, there's a good chance I'll see them climbing up the screen. That little screen corral that I made, they'll climb up the inside of that. And I found some other screen material that I could put down in there for them to crawl around on, so they'll be happy. They like to climb on stuff, and then they'll sit there and they'll pull algae out of the water column and eat that, and they'll crawl across the bottom and they'll find detritus and dead stuff on the bottom, and they'll eat that. So this is all part of that, reinforcing that entire ecosystem. Right now it's guppies and freshwater shrimp, and there's a couple of small freshwater aquatic snails in there. Of course, duckweed, azolla. Most of the azolla, I think, has been eaten up, and it's mostly duckweed now. When I first started out, I had like one tiny little speck of leptominer. I went, oh wow! Amongst all of this azolla, there's a little bit of this leptominer. Now it's mostly leptominer. It's mostly duckweed. But that's That's the base of the food chain right up there is that duckweed, and it reproduces whenever the sun shines on it. It's sunlight, CO2, water. It's all there. Bam, bam, bam. It makes the food. The fish eat that. Now I've got fish that I can take and I can feed to other fish, or I can possibly take those fish out and put them in the pond where I'm going to have the ducks. I have planned an upcoming expansion for a pond for the ducks, but I'm going to need to make sure that mosquitoes don't invade that. So occasionally I'll take minnows or some of these fish that I'm getting and put them out there. I may get some long-eared sunfish to stock in there as well. The ducks won't eat the long-eared sunfish, but the long-eared sunfish will be a regular resident in the pond. Those will keep the mosquitoes down. But periodically, if I'm breeding minnows, I'm going to have a surplus, and I want to start breeding minnows. I found this really nice minnow, pink flathead minnow, great for fishing, of course, but also a prodigious breeder, herbivore. It'll eat that duckweed off the surface of the pond, grow large numbers of minnows, and I can use those as feed for either catfish or crappie, or I can throw them out there in the duck pond, and the ducks can have fun hunting them. I could chop them up and throw them into a special pond or tank, probably a tank, where we're growing crayfish. I did have a great idea, Brian, for a crayfish tower where I can set it up so that we have the crayfish in little runs where they're not facing another crayfish, so they have their own space, right? Individual space. And then when you distribute the food over that tower like a pyramid, it just goes down the sides. Each crayfish has its own area, so it gets its own share, and hopefully that keeps them from fighting amongst each other too much. I hope. I don't know. Or maybe we just throw them all in a tank and let nature do what nature does. We'll see. Vicky saying guppies are efficient predators of mosquitoes. Yes, they are. The only problem I have with the guppies is their tolerance for cold weather. After the temperature drops and the water gets below really about 65, 60, they still swim around at 60. But down below that, they get really sluggish and then they die. And that means I can't leave them outdoors in aquatic systems over the winter, or they will die. I have to bring some of them indoors to keep them alive. Now, they reproduce really fast. I can put them back out into the outdoor aquatic systems, and they can just multiply really fast, eat up the mosquitoes, and that's not a problem. But ultimately, I'm going to wind up needing to come up with a fish that can actually handle winter outdoors here, and guppies aren't it. Guppies are cool. They really are. They're cool. They're fun to look at. I have all different colors of them. They're live bears, so they're very easy to take care of, and they do eat mosquitoes like nobody's business. But because they're tropical fish, I need to find a different one for my outdoor system. So I'm looking at possibly fancy goldfish, heritage heirloom carp, right, for a feeder for catfish. Or I can let the ducks eat those too. I'm sure ducks will be fine eating goldfish. Maybe about 10% of those wind up being the nice, colorful, fancy goldfish that fetch a respectable price in the pet market, and that's something I could sell. I can also sell maybe some guppies as well, because I have lots of nice, fancy colors of guppies. Brian says you can buy mosquitoes. Yeah, you can always buy mosquito ducks, but using fish for a natural control, I like that, because whenever it's all said and done, the ducks get to eat the fish, and so it's feed for the ducks too. Vicky is saying crayfish are aggressive like betta. Crayfish are territorial. They're aggressive and cannibalistic. And here's something interesting that I'm going to try. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I'll try it. Whenever you've got a female crayfish, that's the term is buried up, but they have little tiny auxiliary legs underneath their tail that they use to hold on to their eggs. Whenever you see that she's got eggs and she's holding eggs, go ahead and take her and transfer her over to a 10 to 20 gallon tank. And I'm thinking probably 20-gallon tank, and keep her in isolation there until she has her young. While she's in that stage of producing her young and getting ready to have them, she's going to start emitting a pheromone that curbs the cannibalistic tendencies of crayfish. And so what I'm thinking might be fun to do is take a portion of the water from all of the breeding females and introduce that into the main tank to see if that pheromone in the water may also reduce the cannibalistic tendencies of the other crayfish that are in the tank. And maybe that, along with maybe isolating each one so they're not directly in conflict with each other, might allow us to get around that problem with farm raising crayfish, which is they don't really like to be crowded. Anyway, that's it. So hopefully, maybe someday in the future, we'll do something with crayfish. I don't know. I've got a lot of infrastructure work that I need to do along that line, because I'm still not 100% certain what meat fish we're going to wind up with. I know I really like the idea of having long-eared sunfish, and I know the ducks won't eat the long ears. So for the duck pond, that seems like a good thing to stock, just to keep mosquitoes under control out there. Now for the other pond areas, and John Pumper just walked in and said, "Sup." for the other areas, and Brian said make cells with sawed-off PVC. Yeah, something like that. Make maybe little tubes that come up and out and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Got to do something. Anyway, the other areas, I think I want either crappie or catfish. I'd love to have tilapia, but if I'm going to have tilapia, I'm going to have to find a way to make sure the water temperature stays up to 55. And if I'm doing that, I may as well be raising guppies and freshwater shrimp outside. Yeah. I don't know. So right now I'm looking at catfish or crappie, and I think it's like 80 cents a piece for the crappie and $3 for catfish, for fingerling catfish from a hatchery. If I ordered them up from a hatchery, I don't know. I don't think I want to pay $3 a fish for my meat. But the only alternative is get a breeding population and actually get them to breed. And getting catfish to breed in a pond is not necessarily all that easy. But then again, getting crappie to breed may not be all that easy either in a small space. Anyway, I'm still kicking it around. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But I do know I want to be able to grow some kind of meat fish and grow it out there in the yard. And if I have to go set up some auxiliary tanks in a shed somewhere to breed the young catfish separately, or breed the young crappies separately, or do anything like that, I mean, I guess I could do that to make sure I have breeders. Because one thing I don't want to do is go out in the spring or somewhere between May and June and set up catfish traps and catch wild catfish. On the one hand, if I can establish a breeding population, right? If I can get the adults during the spawning season and get the adults and get the potential babies, and I can hatch them out and I can have baby catfish in my system that I can raise from that point on. I can then take the adults out, and then I'm raising the babies. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want the potential mercury, the methylated mercury that the adults have accumulated. Now, I don't know how much they've accumulated, and it's probably not going to be enough to give me issues, right? But you're better off not getting it in the first place. I think I've had enough mercury in my system for a lifetime. I don't need any more, even though it's probably safe. Yeah. Biggie is saying crayfish are scavengers like aquatic cockroaches, and Sean is saying, when you put it like that, my crawfish boil is off. Why do you think they're considered unclean by Torah law? Yeah. So if you're doing a situation where you're actually raising the crayfish, there's no food that they're eating that would wind up being bad for you. You control the entire environment where these catfish are living, and so they're actually eating meat, and they're not eating filth. They're not going to be kosher. You're still not going to be kosher, but I wouldn't consider them to be potentially hazardous or harmful. Big problem with shellfish, and the reason why most shellfish was forbidden by Torah law, like we think, is because someone was smart enough to recognize that certain foods were linked to higher incidence of disease, and they figured, well, if you just avoid those foods, then maybe you won't get that disease. And seems to work out fairly well. You don't get trichinosis if you don't eat bear meat and pork. You avoid that stuff entirely, you're not going to get that disease. Of course, we know that you can cook pork to a sufficient temperature that kills off the parasite. But not having effective thermometers, say back in the ancient days, maybe it's just best to avoid them entirely, right? Feed the crawfish pig's feet. There you go. I was thinking more along the lines of I raise maybe some fathead minnows, which are adapted to pond systems. I raise some goldfish, and I can always occasionally sell some minnows to the people passing by on their way out to the lakes, which is just a quick stop off the highway. Right down there's the toll road intersects the highway, and you can get off there and stop off right here, and I'll throw you a bucket full of minnows or whatever. But I can use those same things to either chop up, throw to the crawfish and feed crawfish. I could take those and feed them to the ducks. The ducks would be happy to get the protein. I could be growing out crappie or catfish in another pond and feed the minnows to those. So the minnows are just a really great protein stock for a wide variety of different things. And since they can live off of that duckweed and azolla that grows on the top of their pond, this seems like a no-brainer. All I have to do is make sure that I can properly breed either goldfish, minnows, maybe a combination of both, and we're off to the races. Anywho, lots more fun stuff with adding aquatics. I think that's going to be good. So in between storage roots like cannas and eggs from ducks, garlic and onions, we've got lots and lots of fruit and nut trees coming up. Possibly some fish to add to the diet. And of course, this is all off of 1/3 of an acre. So far, I've been focusing on how to get food. We want lots of protein. We want good fats and maybe some starches too. But mostly, we want proteins and fats because proteins and fats are less likely to add to the spare tire. And it's hard, really, to run from the zombies effectively when you got that spare tire around you. Most of the people that have a hard time getting out of the breath because they got the spare tire, they don't manage to get to episode 2 or maybe it's season 2. All right. So Sasspress saying that's some pretty exciting stuff going on there. I know you have got projects going, buddy. Expanding your food forest one lot at a time and just taking over. Doing the good work. Well, guys, it's coming up on an hour. Guys, have any questions? Something you might want to see me put out in a video in the future other than what I've just outlined? More cooking videos? I think we're going to do a lot more cooking videos whenever I get the battery charged up on this puppy right here. Right here. Hey, Sean, did I show you this thing? This is the new stove. All right. It's got a fan at the bottom, right? It's got a fan at the bottom. Plugs into a little power supply, has a USB charger or charges by solar power. Up here on the front, there's the little 3-position switch: on, off, on, low, off, and then on high. So you can have low and high for your fan speed. This little lever here controls your airflow. Pop it, pop it, pop. So you can actually control with your fan speed and the airflow how hot of a flame you're producing with this stove. This little chimney here, it moves up and down depending upon whether you're cooking or not. That, let's see, closes off the top of your combustion chamber, which is this thing right here. Now, I'm told that whenever this is operating, you could touch this basket on the outside, this part right here. They say you can touch this and it will not burn you. So it gets hot up here and it cooks your food, but you can handle this part. And inside there, you can see the inside of the combustion chamber has enough room for about 2 pounds worth of wood pellets or other fuel. Could be little bits of yard waste like that right there. I could use this tie a piece of twine around it so I can actually fit it into there. And that's about the right size. A bundle about this big gives you about an hour's worth of cooking time at full temperature all the way up. And whenever it burns, initially you light it at the top and it starts burning and it starts producing the flammable vapors from the wood that you put in here. It's the flammable vapors that burn. So ultimately what you're cooking with is wood gas. You're burning off the wood gas at the top, and what's left inside is charcoal, because this is a top lit updraft charcoal maker that has now been, let me get this thing out of here, that has now been made a part of a cook stove. How's that? Is that cool or what? Now, I tell you how much I paid for it, but you'd start crying. But I figure we're going to go ahead and buy one of these, right? And check it out. It comes from a company called Blue Sky Biochar. I saw them on Jack Spirko's Survival Podcast. Thought the product was just nifty as a pin, being the fact that ultimately you get the experience of cooking with a gas flame and that control that you get over your heat that you don't get with just cooking on charcoal. And you get charcoal as a result of using the stove. So it's a win-win. I get charcoal at the end of it that I can use as biochar. I can put it in my garden. I can crumble it up into a powder, grind it up really fine, put it in my medicine cabinet. That's good for accidental poisonings. It's good for stopping diarrhea. I can add it to the feed for the ducks. The ducks will consume that. It will reduce the odor of their manure, for starters. And whenever it comes out on the other side, you wind up with a charged biochar for your garden. So it's win all the way around. Vicky is asking, Judy is in the house. Hi, Judy at Dallas Homestead. And Vicky was asking, Jason, why do you pay money for a rocket stove? You can make one for cheap. The reason I pay money for some things that I could make myself is because it's a way that I can support those. It's a wood gas fire, not a rocket stove, and I can make my own. And now that I've had a look at this one, I can use this one as inspiration for my own version that would do exactly what I want it to do. So, it's $200 for it. It's very, very sturdy. I can stand on it and not break it. I probably wouldn't want to jump up and down on it, but I can stand on it and not break it. That means I can put a full kettle that's got a full 5 gallons of wort on it. If I want to say, boil my wort, make some beer, or boil cider or something like that, I can have that on there, bring it to a full boil with that amount of fuel that I've got there, and get some tasks like that done during periods of the year that maybe I wouldn't want to do that on the stove in the kitchen because it'd make the house hot. So this is a great way for me to do some cooking projects outside. And I can use that. And I get the charcoal whenever I'm all done with it. All different kinds of things you can do with good charcoal, from biochar to medicine to everything else. So now I need to come up with 2 bills. Let me go ahead and take this thing out and test drive it and cook an omelet with it and some other stuff. And I'll get you a video too based on that. So now we've got a few more. We got Sunday coming up. We're going to show you introducing the shrimp into the guppy tank, the aquatic system. And I'm also going to include with that a tutorial on, see, I've lost them already. A tutorial on building a fish trap with a plastic bottle and a couple little clips like these, using a piece of twine, of course, plastic bottle, a knife, and some clips. We make an effective fish trap that you can use to capture minnow-sized fish. Of course, you can always scale it up and use bigger bottles if you want to the point where you're catching catfish, if that's what you want to do with it. But I'll demonstrate that, show you how it works, show you that it does work, and that's all coming up on Sunday. Next week, we're going to have, I believe, and I don't know whether I'm going to do this as, I don't know if we're going to do this as a series or just all one thing, but 7, this is only 5. So 5 plus 2, there we go. 5 plus 2, 7. 7 items that you can add to your micro homestead, not small homestead, but micro homestead for generating income. Because although growing all of your own food on a small space is nice, maybe you want to be able to generate some income so you can move from, say, micro homestead to small homestead. That takes money. It'd be nice to be able to make some. How am I going to do that? Well, I've got 7 different strategies for generating income off of a micro homestead where you have a half acre or less to work with. And hey, guess what? Some of these things you can even do if you have no land at all, just an apartment and some space. So there's some fun stuff in here coming up. All right. What else have we got? Aquatic system. We got that. We got the making money off a homestead thing. There was a third one I was talking about, and I've already forgotten what it is. See, this is why I need a secretary. I don't remember things. Oh yes, the actual performance. See, I was just talking about this 5 minutes ago. The actual performance of this particular. Oh, I'm getting my my cord hung up. I don't want to break it. Shoot, I just got it. The actual performance of this thing is called the Fab Stove, and it is a wood gasifier used for making biochar. But while you're making your biochar, it's using the wood gas that comes off of it in the process as a heat source for cooking. And you cook just like you would on a gas stove. It's a gas flame. It's just the gas is being generated from the wood that you're making into biochar. So nice way to send the middle finger to the homeowners association and make biochar in your backyard anyway, right? Now I may be able to figure out a way to produce a cheaper version of this thing, or what I'm actually thinking of is including a thermoelectric generator module, or probably 6 to 8 thermoelectric generator modules to something like this, so that whenever you're cooking your omelet, you can also be charging your phone and charging up a substantial power supply backup, so that the fan will run off of that and all kinds of other fun stuff. So cool things. I think you could probably work this into some sort of a wood gasification convection oven. Maybe you'd like to be able to bake bread. That could be fun. We might be able to work out something like that where you can use that. Sasspress Red is saying, from what Blue Sky is selling biochar for, you can recoup your costs. I'll tell you what, this is kind of interesting. I got another product from Blue Sky, and you guys see where I put it? Sean, yeah, thermoelectric. You came in late, so I'm going to show you this. I showed it to everybody else earlier. I've got another project in the works, and this, you're not going to see much on this until a little bit later. In the year, once the season starts. I've got 2 cans here. I got them from Berlin Packaging, and I had to pay, I think, $17 to have these 2 cans shipped to me. And the reason I got these 2 cans is because I wanted to test the applicators, right? So this is a dauber type applicator, 8-ounce can, and this one here is a brush type applicator in an 8-ounce can. This is plain 8-ounce cans. Haven't been used for anything. I can buy these in bulk, and I'll be getting labels in bulk if my experiment is successful. My experiment is to blend Eastern red cedar oil, which is notorious for repelling insects, particularly moths, but also that has a tendency to crystallize and resist washing off easily in rain events. So hopefully it'll have a little bit of staying power. We're going to mix that with this stuff right here, which, I don't know if you can read. Oh, that label. Let me turn it. There we go. Bamboo vinegar liquid. This is a wood vinegar. It was made with bamboo, biochar made with bamboo, and it smells just like wood smoke. Because that's what it is. This is what you would call liquid smoke, but it is wood vinegar. And this stuff is also very, very powerful at causing insects to stop and turn around and go the other way. So the idea is I use a proprietary blend of cedar oil and wood vinegar. I blend them together, put them in an 8-ounce can, and now I go around to my plants with my 8-ounce can, and I paint the vines close to the base of my vines, my squash vines. So now the vine borers, whenever they come along, they go, I don't like that smell, and they fly away. And they don't lay their eggs on my squash vines. So um, my zucchini and my crookneck and maybe my buttercup and stuff like that don't get molested. Or maybe it is that the dauber applicator works better for that. And the other application, of course, is on corn ears, right up there near the tassels where the silk is. We take the dauber or the brush and we put that right around up there, right there where, once again, it's a moth that comes in and lays their eggs and produces that worm, the corn worm that comes in and eats your corn there. You don't want that. You don't want any of the other little beetles that like to eat your fresh fruits, your corn and stuff like that, getting in there and nibbling on them. And who knows, maybe the scent will be potent enough that even the grasshoppers won't come up to eat the tassels. I won't know until I start using it, but we're going to find out during this growing season whether this blend that I have imagined is actually going to be successful at stopping insect predation or not. And if it is, then next year, sometime during the winter and then coming out for spring, there will be little 8-ounce cans of potent and effective insect repellent to protect your tender little plants in the garden that you've been having the hardest time protecting without using poisons. And these will not be a poison. It'll be, of course, a repellent instead. Oh, I almost forgot. Wood vinegar, whenever it washes off of the stems of your plant and gets into the soil, will stimulate bacterial growth in the soil and serve as a growth stimulant for your plants instead of a poison. So instead of putting poison on your plants, you put on something that helps the plant grow and doesn't kill anything else. Kind of cool. I thought maybe people might like that sort of a product, so we're working on developing it. Bamboo is a grass, not wood. True, but what you're making the charcoal and the wood vinegar out of is the cellulose. So it works. Sasper said, first thing I found when I Googled bamboo wood vinegar is a PDF about wood vinegar and germination. Yeah, it supercharges the soil and it stimulates growth. So it has another benefit. I don't know which headline you want. Green Country Agroforestry produces product that stops vine borers, or Green Country Agroforestry produces product that stimulates plant growth, or maybe it does both, and we just like bing, 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 bing. There you go. Of course, I didn't make this product. Blue Sky made it. It's not the only place where you can get wood vinegar. I'm in the process of shopping around to see where I can get the best, good concentrated wood vinegar at the best price. Because ultimately, whenever I put all this together and I'm sending it out to customers, I want to be able to offer them a product that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg either. Jasper said, I just want to know how to invest. If you're interested in investing, greencountryagroforestry.com. We have a website. We'll go ahead and put the website address up here. We do have a shop where you can purchase trees, including right now we have the Eastern Redbud tree on sale. Cercis canadensis, $25 a piece. If you order two, that's $50, and at $50, the shipping and handling is free. Now, ordinarily, it's a flat rate of $8 to buy anything from the store. Let me put our web address right up there for you. It's $8 flat rate, and I wind up occasionally having to pay up the difference if you don't quite hit that $50 mark. And it's $8. You've got a tree and you've got some seeds and you maybe have something else. The total mass is going to be a little bit higher than $8, but yeah, it's okay. It all comes out on the end, because occasionally, as you'll notice, we sell seeds as well, and the seeds are Zea mays. Specifically, here's the example. This particular type of corn seed, which is the Big Horse spotted corn, Osage native corn, one of the most genetically diverse corns you can get. Awkward Human says, I got my tree yesterday. Box was trashed in transit. Thankfully, tree was okay. Awesomeness. So, Awkward Human, you are off in, I think that's New Mexico, correct? You guys are out in New Mexico. And she also got some of these corn seeds, one package, and we're packaging them up by weight, and we're putting 16 grams in. The seeds are different sizes, but I noticed that 16 grams and above is usually at least 100 or more seeds. So I do 16.2, 16.5, or whatever it happens to be, right? And you get at least 100 seeds, enough for one block. And so Awkward Human got a package. And they come like this: plain paper envelope, regular old paper. And something that I will be doing in the future, I haven't done yet, but will be doing in the future, is including a little bit of charcoal in each package. And the reason for the charcoal, of course, is it absorbs water. Isn't that cool? I could add a little bit of charcoal into each package. It'll absorb excessive moisture. Of course, paper packages are good for this as well, dealing with moisture. That charcoal will soak up the excess moisture, and it'll add about 10% or more to the life of the seeds. So, yay. Awkward Human saying, splitting the corn between two sites. Oh, I almost wish I'd sent you a second pack of corn then. Make it a little bit easier to keep the genome going. But hopefully they work out okay. All right. I'll put this over here. So we still have some. And I've got about maybe 10 redbud trays left. I think I have 10. I'll get through these 10, and then whenever I hit out of stock, I'll go and recheck my inventory and see how many we've got. But yeah, spotted horse is just incredibly diverse. I have not really seen any other native corn that's more genetically diverse. So trying to trace back, what's the oldest version of the corn plant that we can still get that has that genetic diversity before it just became, monocrop of one strain and next to, has one accident short of becoming extinct. And that's the most genetically diverse I've found. Now, they're not all as pretty as the ears that I present there, and it's taken me a couple of years of getting them accustomed to growing here. But after about 2 years of growing, they're going to come out nice and pretty from here on out, because this is the place where that strain of corn originated from. And so it's adapted to growing here. So I'm actually probably in a pretty good place to produce that seed. The way the land lies, I don't have anyone for miles up or down river from me growing corn. And then the hillside on either side of the river where we're at, since we're in the valley, provides us with more geographic isolation. And so, at least for right now, I'm able to grow a rare heirloom strain of corn and keep it fairly pure. Yay! You just don't care, do you, Kitty? All right. So Kitty is laying down here next to the wood vinegar and just chilling out and enjoying life. Aren't you glad you don't have to be outside in this cold and rain? Yeah, he's happy. Jasper is saying, check out Lofthouse's Land Race Gardening on YouTube. It is inspirational. Yeah, land raising seeds. Getting seeds that are adapted to growing where you're at. It's I can't talk. It's an interesting prospect. I already have. I know it's coming. I just don't know when. I already have some seeds coming to us from Canada up there in Manitoba, Saskatchewan. And I'm going to get myself something to drink because I'm thirsty. Covering up the package because they're not paying me to advertise that it's a coffee drink. Okay. So I ordered up seeds from a nursery up in Saskatchewan that deals in prairie wildflowers. And it's one that would have grown here for a long, long time back whenever the Osage lived here. But I think it's one of those ones that if you don't have humans to tend it, it doesn't survive well. So it's called Soloria, Psoloraea, Soralia esculenta, common name Indian breadfruit. And what it is a tuberous root that fixes nitrogen. So it's a member of the Fabaceae family, forms associations with little tiny bacteria in the soil. I keep on saying this, that produce nitrogen in exchange for sugars from the plant. So it enriches the soil, adds nitrogen to the soil, produces little tiny blue flowers. So it is actually a true blue flower a prairie wildflower with blue flowers. So you can put it close to the edge of an area of your garden where you don't have too much tree canopy, or a place where it's opened up a little bit and you have more sunlight during the course of the day. You put that in there alongside maybe Jerusalem artichokes, which is a perennial sunflower, or some other things like that. There's a wide variety of different things you can work into this area where you have this nice little sunlit meadow. Maybe you want to put in some blackberries in this area. Have blackberry thicket, Jerusalem artichokes, and then as a shorter ground cover, this Silura esculenta, Indian breadfruit. The first year it grows up, produces flowers, makes a pretty little plant. It's maybe about a foot tall. That's about as big as it gets. The second year, it devotes most of its energy in producing that tuber. So your first year it grows, the second year you get the tuber. And then if you just harvest them periodically and keep your patch going, you can continuously pull out this nice starchy storage root and add that to your diet as well. If I can get these Canadian seeds to want to sprout and grow here in Oklahoma, because the plant used to be native to this range. It just hasn't really grown here for a while. So hopefully I can get it to grow down here again. Sassafras Red is saying, I've got to go. Much love to each and every one of you. Do good, plant seeds, be the light this world needs. See you next week. Hey, I got to go too, because I've been on here for about an hour and a quarter and it's getting past my bedtime. I've got some more work to do tomorrow if it'll ever stop raining. I've got duck fence I've got to do. Maybe that's going to be another video coming up soon where we redo our duck fence. They're currently either rushing the temporary fence and knocking it over, climbing up over the top, just doing that World War Z scene where they're all piling onto the side of the building until finally they just go up over the top and they're gone. Yeah, they're doing that and just bull rushing the fence. Sometimes they can get under the fence because it's temporary. It's not buried anywhere. So I've got to redo that. So it's a little bit wider. They have a little bit more room to walk around. I want to go ahead and include the patches that my garlic is inside the regular duck run. The place where the pond is going will be inside the regular duck run. And then whenever I get around to starting to do my preparation to plant corn here in a couple of months, we'll just put up that temporary fence around where the corn is until it sprouts and gets up to be about chest high or so on me. That's high enough that the ducks aren't going to be able to knock it over and attack the tops and eat the tops, which are going to be tender and tasty, and they might like those. And then they can just focus on weeding and taking care of pests. And so coordinating farming with ducks and using the ducks for pest control, using the ducks for weeding is what we're working on a lot of this year. Some of the squash that I grow to test the insect repellent on, some of that I will put inside the duck enclosure. So we'll see if the ducks will eat the squash. Some of that we'll put outside. And once again, it's just going to find out, are there certain vegetables that I can go and I can put out there with the ducks? Do I have to maybe time when the ducks are allowed to be out there? But I can put out there so that the animals are a companion to them and the animals do some of the work, because I'm getting old and my back isn't what it used to be. And I don't want to have to bend over for hours on end weeding a garden. So if I've got an animal that will do the weeding for me happily and not eat my vegetables, provided, of course, I'm selective about what vegetables I grow, then I figure I should be selective about what vegetables I grow and let the ducks take care of a lot of that labor for me. And then I can grow my vegetables and have that bit of labor taken care of. I've got my fertilizer taken care of. I've got insect control taken care of by the animals. And once I begin feeding them biochar, they'll be walking around taking care of adding biochar to my soil and transforming the soil in that way too. So guys, lots of fun stuff to look forward to coming up. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and get some rest. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay warm and dry out there if you can. And until next time, get out there, get growing, and I will catch you next time. I said that all backwards. I will catch you next time. And until then, get out there and get growing is what I intended to say. Good night, everybody.